Stop beating your gums and sound the attack.
All right, hello, and welcome to another episode of the We Got the Chocolates podcast, coming to you from a new studio. This is episode 45, I believe. Welcome Haz, welcome Mitch, new studio, same familiar faces in terms of co-hosts. How are you guys?
Very good. I'm missing the old studio already, actually. I liked the character to it, but this will do the job well, I'm sure.
Luckily, it's not far away from the dining room.
Just up the road, really has. Same postcode, I think you'll find.
The room next to the dining room. So.
That's right. Guys, song this week. Here it is. Skinner, tell everyone what that one's called.
I wish I could, but I can't.
Okay, that is a real common one. It's Motel Rock from Hanu Dixit.
Right.
Very similar to Mr. Fix It, Mr. Dixit.
I did know that. Yeah.
Controversial name in some circles, probably not the one you're after, but that's okay. Very well sung. Thank you for the Motel Rock. Now, guys, huge episode as per usual, but there's announcements all the time. There was merchandise a couple of weeks ago. Now it's a new studio.
There's still merchandise.
There is still merchandise in the new studio, in fact. So great combo deal there. And we also have a little review coming. We've been asking for feedback. We're always keen for people to leave comments in the social media sections and let us know what they think that we can improve on. But we've actually got a professional to come and help us this week, which will be quite interesting. That's coming up for you. Obviously, there's some NRL returned, so we have to chat through what happened there. But to start, guys, just a couple of stories to let you know. Now, obviously, we probably know that I seem to find myself having the majority of these stories to contribute for some reason. I think it could potentially be because I'm the biggest idiot. Hard to say. But, by the way, let me just get you in a mood with a true story that I heard today. So, my mate from school, teacher, has actually, obviously came from quite a wealthy background.
I already know it's a lie. This is just a story.
No, this is a true story.
Well, you don't have any mates, so you've already lied to us.
True story has, and it came from a wealthy background, so it could actually be has. So, came from a wealthy background. Used to have a butler, right, who had his whole left arm missing. Served him right.
Oh, good God.
Thoughts, guys?
I'm waiting for you to find the button, but I don't think it'll be my emotions. Yeah, no. That's definitely not my thoughts.
Picked it as soon as you said it was you, mate.
Well done,
perfect. Now that was just one of the true stories. This happened to me. The next one's also true, unfortunately. Wondering if you've ever had this experience, guys. I was at a cafe the other day. Pretty pumped to be there, really. Friday. I always feel like Tuck Shop Fridays are a great day. Get myself over and make sure that I reward myself for my long 3-day working week. And so I have indeed ordered the coffee, just standard flat white, which was great, and a little breakfast sort of wrap to go. And I was waiting there for what I seemed was probably like quite a short time in hindsight. But, at the time felt reasonable. There wasn't that big of a lineup or anything like that. And the lady just sort of called, as it turns out, not my name, but at the time I just thought she called my name. She called something. She definitely made some sort of audible sound that was meant to be heard by the people waiting for their orders. And so I just sort of walked up and was like, thanks very much. Outstanding. Grabbed the coffee, grabbed the brown paper bag, straight swig, straight out of the coffee, and was sort of like, oh, that's an interesting tasting flat white. Oh, well, obviously they're just not very good here. Walked out the door. As I walked out the door, I made eye contact with another guy who happened to be walking to the bench, feeling like it was potentially his order. And I was like, oh, you idiot. Come on, mate. Wait your turn. And I've walked past him. It was then that I looked in the bag at what was potentially meant to be a breakfast wrap that I found that it was a croissant featuring jam that I thought, something has gone quite remarkably wrong here. And so as I walked back into the cafe, that guy, not particularly happy with his lot in life, he just goes, sort of walks through it, and the girl was obviously waiting for me, had been informed of my mistake by that point, and she just said, that's not your coffee, is it? I said, I'm afraid not. Really, really not.
How can you let this happen? Like, surely as a cricketer, you got to stay in the moment. You got to be switched on and sharp each ball. How do you just switch off so easily in public?
It's probably why I averaged 27 instead of 60. You're fine. Look good for a couple of cover drives and then see you later. Similar sort of issue.
Yeah, right.
So we wouldn't have that issue if you made your own coffee using Alchemy Australia products at home.
The only reason I told this story, ladies and gentlemen, set him up for a free 3-pointer. That's quite hard to say. Free three.
3-pointer,
Yeah. No, well done, Haz.
You're getting better. You're getting better at that, aren't you? Making your Alchemy
Very
coffees
strong,
at home?
actually, in terms of turmeric lattes, matcha lattes, and beetroot lattes. Very, very good.
Yeah, few issues that you're having though are you're using my coffee machine, which you struggle to maintain. The drip tray is full again, which you haven't emptied. And
How is that possibly my job? I can't do everything around here, Skinner.
Because it was empty
And-
last time I used it.
You are moving out soon, Mitch, so
Yeah,
you're going to be
and
taking that
was-
coffee machine
yeah,
with you, aren't you?
that was my next
Ooh.
point is I'm moving out on the 26th of June, Leighthal, and you're going to be without a coffee machine.
Are we having at least a going away party for it?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, not for you, just the coffee machine.
Just a couple of cuppers on me last day.
That'd be good.
But I've got
Yeah.
a similar story, if that's all right. I went to grab myself a coffee the other day and probably didn't make such as major blunder to steal someone else's beverage, but ordered a couple of soy flat whites for myself and Eloise, and they asked us to wait outside the cafe just due to sort of social distancing, all that sort of stuff. So I stepped outside and they've apparently called my name, but turns out that the sound wasn't travelling terribly well all the way outside. So I
Sounds
stood
like
there waiting for
skin
about
stat segment. How far does sound travel?
yeah, so I stood there waiting for about 15 minutes thinking, gee, these coffees are taking a while. Like, I'm the only person here that's ordered a coffee. What could possibly be going on? And went in to inquire and found 2 very cold coffees waiting for me. So
Did
that was
they replace those by any chance, or you
No,
just iced coffees?
Just sent me packing, yeah.
Sent you back. Perfect. Haz, you've got nothing?
I can't have much on the coffee front either. I'm not much of a coffee fan, so...
You've never established that before.
And you know I'm not going to go and buy hot chocolates or anything from a cafe, am I?
of
So
course.
No, good point. Very good point. And there'll be plenty more chat coming up like that. Now, Skin, you actually I think you should lead the next story as well, because it's more embarrassing for you, I feel, in terms of, some people will be aware, but, well, actually not that many people will be aware. I think we've kept it off social media for the moment, but we actually had a pretty big loss on the weekend.
We did, yes. Sorry, I was struggling to figure out where you were going. But yeah, so we've had Mum's birthday lunch on Saturday afternoon, I believe, and thought we're going down to Bulimba Park. Thought we'd have plenty of room to work with. We'll take the Sherrin down, have a kick. Just had a picnic there, sitting on the river. Everything was going swimmingly. Hopped up to kick the footy,
Including...
Yeah, funny I should say that. We hopped up to have a kick, and shortly thereafter, the Sherrin was going swimmingly.
It was very going swimmingly.
I've shanked every single one of my kicks until I finally missed Leighthal, maybe a metre or two to the right, got arguably the worst bounce ever, and it just carried on in straight into the Brisbane River. So, yeah.
Be honest, I think if I was willing to win the hard ball, there was a chance I could have stopped it on the rocks.
Yeah, I thought you were a bit slow, yeah.
Yeah, like if I had to put my body on the line, there was a real chance to save it. And the annoying thing was that actually wore on me for the rest of the weekend. Like, I feel like my mood rapidly deteriorated after we lost that, Sherrin. Yeah. I really felt like, I mean, I've kicked some serious snags with that thing. It was quite hard to let go.
didn't want to get in the drink.
We worked hard to get it back, and we just couldn't. Followed it upstream.
Clinical on the buttons as per. Yeah, no, we did. We actually travelled, like, we were skating after it. We were trying to find it. We were hoping it was going to kick right to the bank.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah, it just didn't happen for us.
Never returned.
Can't win them all.
Good news is Reece Triffett donated one to me that afternoon. So Haz, thanks for coaching his kid. He's given one to us now, which is fantastic.
I'll use it well.
Unreal.
I will. Now, one other question story that I wanted to tell you from my week. I was watching the video of me emceeing a particular wedding last night. Marnus name drop. Woo, whoop. But yeah, so I was just watching that, my emceeing effort in that.
I was there that night.
You were, yeah. Now you might be able to testify to this, Haz. I was very strong.
You did a good job.
Which I didn't realise, to be honest, because people say it to you, but once you'd be like in the moment, I didn't have a clue. I couldn't even remember half the things that I said, so it was quite impressive to watch back, I must say.
Right.
So if obviously you need me to MC any gigs out there, then I'll be willing and able.
Is it like it being a referee on a footy game? You're like, they're a good referee if you don't notice them. It's the same as an MC. They're a good MC if you don't notice them. Or?
I hope not, because that was definitely not my criteria.
I know.
But one thing did become very poor, boys. Or very appalling, in fact, for me. I have had some real issues in terms of the old hair loss since that particular night. That was only like 2 years ago, was it? Maybe 3 years ago?
3 years ago. They just had their 3 year anniversary.
Yeah, okay, 3 years ago. I've aged very ordinarily. Like it's been tough times. So I am seeking some help here. I know we've got a few segments going, but if you have any last-ditch hair loss remedies, holy Moses on Rico's, I need it. Because I watched that footage and I was actually quite a good-looking rooster.
Yeah, what happened?
That's what I'm trying to work
I
out.
don't think you look good with the full shave, gone bald there.
No. Well, I mean, some people do look very good. Michael Jordan, very good looking rooster. Also quite tall and strong.
Athletic.
Yes.
Talented.
Darker.
Yeah. Successful.
Financially quite well off. So all of those things I think also help has. No, there's plenty of, I mean, Pitbull is sexiest man in the world. There's some good, there's some good signs there. Chris Lynn, very sexy. So there are some great signs there for me, Has, but I feel like I would like to delay that process for a little bit longer, if possible, after seeing sort of the inspirational footage that I saw last night.
I can't speak too soon because I'm a few years behind you, so there's every chance that I'm going to follow the same path. I think my granddad's pretty bald, so it's probably in the genes, so I'm a bit worried.
Yeah, I mean, it's strife. It's real strife. But I think there's something out there, Skin. Something out there, some coconut oil or a couple of tablets or
I
something.
think just a little Ashley and Martin gift card would do the job.
Ashley and Martin, if anyone's got a spare 11 grand lying around, just a quick Ashley and Martin gift card wouldn't go astray, guys. Straight under the Christmas tree, thanks. They don't have to be big presents to be good. Excellent. Now, I feel like that's probably all the stories that we really need to get into. What is actually happening now, guys, I'm just going to have a quick change of topic sound. But after that, we have obviously talked about the fact that we probably need to review how we're going as a podcast. We need some feedback. We've actually got in Haz's old man to do that for us. Coming up right after this. All right, boys. Next section. You do know that we obviously always ask our listeners and maybe viewers, because we are across that medium as well, Skinnell. We do ask them to, give us some feedback, a bit of reviews. You knocking into the microphone arm would be the first thing. So we've always sort of asked for that, but we thought we'd go a little bit more professional tonight and actually try and get someone who actually has some idea about what they're talking about into the studio. And Haz, we're probably quite fortunate in that your relations, and probably quite a close relation, you might say, actually used to work in radio. So it's really quite able to give us a little bit of etiquette chat. He sits on my right, Glenn.
Thanks, Leigh. Pleasure to be here with the We Got the Chocolates team. Salubrious surroundings here too of this fantastic studio. I think the only thing lacking at this stage, Leigh, might be the waitress with a few cold ones.
Yeah, well, no, that's probably fair enough, and that has obviously been put in the budget for review. And Skinner, obviously Chief Financial Officer. Really, we put all the people that are not quite good with their savings over on this side of the table, and then the people that are very good usually go over there. That's how we sort of split it up, Glenn.
Right.
So I guess that's a no, Leigh.
to know at this stage.
Well, I'm sure we have plenty of Alchemy Australia products on hand. If you want to give them a go, they'll be in the house somewhere.
Fair plug to Sam, because each morning, of course, with the banana smoothies goes the Alchemy turmeric elixir, and it's fantastic for the arthritis, Sam.
Yeah, I do see you putting it in your smoothies of a morning, so that's good to see.
Oh, outstanding. Now, I guess, Glenn, what I do have to ask you now, I guess we firstly need to check just how you qualify to sort of give this review. I would suggest that the things that you feel like we can probably work on. Tell us a little bit about your experience in terms of radio and why we've got you on this evening.
Yeah, radio for me was a little bit of a hobby, Leigh, and I did it some years ago, back in the 1990s actually, for a period of time. Worked with 4BC up here in Brisbane. as I suppose a surprise guest on a weekly basis with John McCoy on the afternoon sports show, and then that transpired a few years later to working with the 2GB sports team and Macquarie News, calling different sports around Brisbane and the Gold Coast and the general vicinity.
Outstanding. Gee, well, that's probably fairly qualified.
He is known to burst into his commentary ways, watching a game of rugby league at home or whatever it might be on TV. He likes bursting into that Rabbits Warren sort of mould, commentating what's going on.
Outstanding.
Obviously with the help of a different elixir than the alchemy stuff, Sam, but yeah.
And ironically still starts with alk, though, which is interesting.
I think you might be owed a few beers from Leigh after a few visits he's made to our place over the years.
Fair point, Sam, and not surprising that you would come up with that payback sort of a system. But, yeah, I've offered Leigh some of the best German brews that I've had in the house, and he's willingly accepted them, but yet to see him walk in the door with a six-pack. I'm sure it'll happen sooner or later.
You should just say this time, I've come in and tried this beer. He's like, man, I've got this really good German beer that's in the fridge if you want one. I was like, yeah, beauty, no worries. We're watching the footy, trying to beat Haz in table tennis, obviously. And then I was just like, yeah, I'll have a beer, I'll try one. Germany spoke really, really highly of it. It sounded like it was going to be unbelievable. Yeah. Unfortunately, I tried to sort of pretend that I was really enjoying it. He came and asked, obviously, how's that beer, Leigh? Yeah, great. No, it's awesome. Tastes delightful. And he was like, really? It's been in there for about 8 months. The worst beer I've ever tasted.
Yeah, well, it was like regifting a gift. I think it was actually a gift from one of my students at school. Thought it was great stuff. He's probably got it off his father, who was gifted it from somebody else. So it's passed down the chain, and you finished it off, Leigh. Congratulations.
It was not great. I'll be completely honest with you.
Absolute dishwater, Leigh.
Yeah, very, very true. Well, where are we off to, Glenn? I guess straight away, I need to get your thoughts here. You'll be aware because you're an avid listener of the show, maybe even on 2 times the speed, but that's okay. Still counts as a listen, so we're all right with that. Mm-hmm. But we always vote for a best on ground. Often you'll find whenever we're sort of at the end of an episode, often the guest gets it. It's very difficult for Leighthal to get it for some reason. I haven't worked out yet.
Not off the market.
But Glenn, from what you've listened from the outside source, what do you think is letting us down, or who, more importantly, is letting us down, do you think?
Oh, look, I think it's a well-rounded team. I think you each bring your own personality to the show. Each person has something to offer, different personalities. Variety is the spice of life, Leigh. So at this point, I won't commit myself to any outrageous comments.
He will be pushing for a spot after this appearance, though, as a full-time member, I'm sure.
I like he's actually put himself closest to the wall so he can't get out. I think he's just staying put. Yeah, right.
I've always been put into a corner, whether it be in classroom or at home, mate.
Glenn, I'm sure, judging by your performance already, I'm sure you're a good crack at the Best on Ground award tonight, and especially given your experience in radio. I think you've probably worked on episodes and stuff with a lot more listeners than we're currently getting, and I'm sure you've had a chance to speak to a few big names in that period of your life. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, I've spoken to some few interesting people. I suppose the most famous in this part of the world would have been Wally Lewis, and I got a lot of time with Wally when he was captain coaching down at Seagulls on the Gold Coast, and the after-match press conferences were very interesting, and Wally was a very, very interesting subject himself, but found him to be a really approachable guy after he'd finished blowing up at the team, which probably won about 3 games per season. And as we all know, the Gold Coast rugby league teams, and in fact most of their sporting teams, have got a very similar record to that, and not much has changed.
Yeah, right.
Well, I've heard you speak a bit about Wayne Bennett and behind the scenes how he is. What do you think about Wayne?
Yeah,
Does he speak?
Wayne's an interesting character. The first time I came across Wayne was actually when we were at university in northern New South Wales, and he brought the police academy touch football team down to a carnival we're having down there, and it was a semi-fun type of carnival, but Wayne insisted that his players, including Mal Meninga at the time, who was in the touch team, had to stay at home that night between the 2 days of the carnival and rest up for the final the next day. They weren't too happy about that, but they went on to beat my team in the final by about 55-0. So I guess, Wayne has always taken his game seriously, but he's a fairly taciturn sort of a character. He hasn't changed much over the years, and if he doesn't like a question, he just backhands you. He doesn't want to know about it. But very successful in what he does, as we all know.
And now he's the coach of your team. You're the team you follow in the rugby league.
I was going to say, do you coach now as well?
Well, probably
Still
told Sam
playing.
a few times that I know more about the game than most of the coaches. But really, look, he's an exceptional coach, and if he can do something positive for Souths and bring a few wins their way, I'm more than happy. If he's part of the South Sydney Cardinal and Myrtle, then he's part of my positive brigade.
However, your mother, my grandmother, actually is not a fan of him. She's a South Sydney supporter, but she hates Wayne Bennett. She's not doesn't like him being the coach.
Yeah, she's made a bit of a jump to Parramatta in Wayne Bennett's presence, but hopefully
What's
we
he
can
done
win
to
it
her?
back.
I think just because he had the link with the Broncos or something. I'm not sure, but
Really?
Oh, Broncos and Queensland, yeah, anything to do with that. Mum's a New South Welshman through and through, so yeah, Wayne Bennett's on the bad side of her books for sure.
He's off the Christmas card list. That's awesome.
What about when South had like Greg Inglis and stuff? Was that tough for her to follow then? Or she was happy?
Absolutely fine. Greg
Okay.
Inglis is a champion of the team.
As soon as they got South Sydney colours on, it's all right. But
right.
if they still have a suit on,
Yeah.
Wayne Bennett, then no deal.
So were there many times when things just did not go to plan on radio? I mean, that's probably happened a few times to us during our productions. But
The old change of studios tonight. Didn't go to plan.
fortunately, we can edit because it's all pre-recorded. But
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, well, look, lots of things went wrong actually because it was live to air radio and it was going right across Australia and into New Zealand, and we were working with fairly rudimentary equipment. In fact, the stuff I see before me now is much better than some of the stuff I was working with. But I hark
That's
back
impressive, Glenn. You watch this, keep talking. I'll just give you a bit of hype here behind
I
me.
hark back to a story at the Old Lang Park where I was commentating. My commentary position was on the eastern side of the ground, looking into the sun. But I had to go across before each game and interview each coach and find out the team lists for the day before I sprinted back to my side of the field to actually give my pre-game report. But on more than one occasion, I was caught having to do my pre-game report, Sam, on the hill, surrounded by the supporters on a mobile phone, getting pelted by cans of beer and the like in those days, trying to get the report done and act as professionally as I could. It was tough, but we got the job done, Sam. And also some of the other sports that I was less familiar with than rugby league that I was from time to time asked to commentate on.
yeah.
Oh, did you actually do other sports as well, not just rugby league?
Not rugby league solely, Leigh. I actually commentated from the grandstand at Ballymore a France-Australia rugby union test over the phone, which was going to air through Australia. It was difficult, believe you me, because the spectators in the crowd, and it was a sellout crowd at Ballymore that night, weren't too impressed with the fact that the joker sitting next to them was on his phone the whole game, commentating the game. I thought I was doing them a favour, but obviously they weren't too impressed.
Right.
I think I was the only person in the stand without leather patches on my jacket as well, which probably looked a bit out of place at a rugby game.
Not quite too professional doing that. You don't hear that too many times these days.
Certainly not.
They think you're match fixing and sending the tips back to India or something if it was a cricket game and trying to get ahead of the live TV stream.
Look, the most difficult one I did was I was asked in 1997, I think it was. You guys might remember back in the day before the A-League, there was a National Soccer League. And the Brisbane Strikers made the grand final, unexpectedly beat Sydney United in a semi-final. They got to host the game at a sold-out 40,000 people at Lang Park. Now, remember back in those games, a game of soccer drew about, maybe 5,000 to 7,000 people. 40,000 people crammed into the game. I was told 3 days before the game I was commentating the match. I looked at the team lists, very, very difficult because Sydney United, I think, had once been called something like Sydney Croatia. The whole team's surnames ended in IC, so there was Smelovic, Denisovic, Magonovic, the whole team, and I was told I had to commentate the game. Don't know a real lot about soccer, so I went to one of the Year 12 boys at the college that I work at, and I said, mate, look, I know you're into soccer. Have you got tickets for the game on Sunday? No, sir, I don't. Would you like to sit in the commentary team with me and call the game? Sir, that'd be brilliant. Okay, next 3 days, mate, we are sitting in my classroom at lunchtime, and you're teaching me how to commentate on soccer because I just don't know a lot about it. Look, it was one of the highlights of what I did. I won't call it a career because I don't think I was professional enough to call it a career, but
Right.
I got through the game. It was all successful. Brisbane won 2-0, and the producers of the show in Sydney were very, very happy, so I pulled it off. I don't know how, but I pulled it off.
That's outstanding. That is good.
Yeah, that's good. And Glenn, while we're on the topic of your experience with other sports, I'm sure you've noticed Sam is a reasonably decent cricketer. I was wondering if you could let us know where those genes came from. Do you think he's got them off you, or
We've actually had this question on the podcast before, remember? And do you know who sent it in?
Glenn?
Glenn was definitely the person that sent it in, and he was not impressed with Hazard's answer.
No, thanks for prompting me, actually. I think Sam put it all down to his mother's footwork as a Highland dancer.
That's correct. I do remember that. I wish I had that sound grab to play. I'll find that for you.
Less than impressive skin, as it turns out. I wasn't a great cricketer. In fact, I played 1 year of grade cricket as a young fellow in year 11 down in Coffs Harbour, and it was B grade cricket. And
We've actually got your My Cricket page up just here, Glenn, in fact. It's unreal that My Cricket's been around for that long. But
70 or 80 years.
But it's got 5 of those very similar sort of circle-looking shapes that represent 0 runs usually. Would that be correct?
That is correct, Lee, but I was going to take you back just a step further to my first game that season.
Oh, good, yeah, please, sorry.
Batting at number 11, I scored 8 not out off 6 deliveries and was promoted up the order. Henceforth proceeded to score 5 consecutive ducks.
Oh, no.
Very ordinary umpiring down there in the Coffs Harbour District competition.
Absolutely. Or was your mode of dismissal?
But I did help the team reach the grand final, Lee, and batting at number 11, I raised my bat at 1 not out. Preventing the 6th consecutive duck.
Well, there was nothing to describe that, is it? We've had the chat before. Four ducks in a row is the Audi.
Yep.
5 Olympic rings. 6, I don't know what 6 could be. We'd be struggling for 6. You had to get it right.
Like you got past that one.
Yeah, you had to. That's pretty good.
So surely batting at number 11, you're a handy bowler then?
I wouldn't say handy, but that particular match did work out in my favour, and match figures of, I think it was 10 for 23 with 6 for 9 in the first and 4 for 14 in the second.
That is handy bowling.
That's handy. I'll take that.
Are you doing anything between sort of September and March this year? Any chance?
Only if you've got non-turf wickets, and I was bowling on Koya mats in those days.
The heck is a Koya mat?
Which was like a woven cane type product over concrete. So
Right.
it was strapped down to the side of the field or onto the side of the pitch, and for a seam bowler, because I certainly had no pace, it did allow a fair degree of deviation, and I got a fair bit that particular match and walked away with those stunning figures. Was promoted to first grade the following year, actually, Leigh, but
No doubt.
after one inconspicuous game in first grade, I decided that I'd go back to surfing.
Yes, that's true. We do see a bit of you surfing, actually. You've still been, and you're not probably the busiest person these days, so surfing does get a serious run.
Yeah, semi-retired, and once again, thanks to the Alchemy turmeric elixir, which allows these old arthritis-ridden bones to
joints
get
just
through a
keep
surf.
going.
And trying to keep up with Sam because he drives me pretty hard, particularly in the recent big swells. Come on, Dad, you can paddle out. Come on, you can make it out.
Yeah,
Not so easy.
It's all
He's
mental, isn't it?
Inspiring, Has. And that's why he's such a good cricket coach yourself.
High
Come on, mate, you can hit a
expectations.
pull shot. All right. Well, Glenn, despite obviously your lack of batting skills that we have mentioned there, I've heard that many people saw you as a lookalike for a former international cricketer in your younger days. You might have actually had a doppelganger there.
Yeah, look, I don't like to blow my own trumpet, but at the time I looked like, I suppose, a similar version of Allan Border, and going to nightclubs where people were a little bit hazy and the lighting wasn't all that good, I did get passed off as Allan Border on more than one occasion.
I can see that.
Particularly advantageous. One particular night, myself and my mates were chauffeured all around the Gold Coast in a limousine, which was pretty good. But I suppose the funniest occasion was when I was actually part of a Channel 7 cricket team who was masquerading as a Queensland second 11. Were invited down to Yamba in New South Wales to play the local side. All expenses paid, the whole lot. So we rocked on down to Yamba, and I put my name down on the team sheet as John Border, Allan's brother. And again, my lack of batting prowess came to the fore when I strolled out to the crease, took guard, and after I missed the first ball by about 200 metres, a fellow behind the stumps said, well, he might be Allan Border's brother, but he certainly doesn't play anything like him. I went on to score 2 that day, which was much more than I usually scored.
I was going to say, that's actually quite impressive, really, given the other stats that we've read out.
I guess we should get back to your prowess of NRL and it returned this week back on TV. So a few changes. What did you think of how the new rules went?
Yeah, look, I'm absolutely a fan of Peter V'landys. I think he's done a great job, first of all, to get rugby league back. But also, I've never liked the wrestle, and I think I've said to you on more than one occasion, Sam, come and have a look at this game being played in the 90s when people weren't wrestling on the ground and slowing to play the ball. I think this first round back, round 3 of the NRL, has been an absolute boon for the game, not just because they're the first game back, because the product on the field has been absolutely outstanding. So, yeah, I'm a big fan. I love the game, and I'm glad to see that the game is being restored back to some sort of more of an attacking game than what it has been over the last 4 or 5 years at least.
Yeah, we saw some stats come up just recently. The NRL have brought out of how many extra minutes the ball's been in play since that rule's happened, and more tries, more line breaks. So it's...
Wasn't the only rule to change though the one ref? How were your thoughts on that? Were you ever a fan of the 2 ref system?
Never a fan of the 2 ref system, Leigh, because I think they second guessed one another, and therefore we were seeing a lot more penalties. I think referees were afraid to see a half an error go because they thought, well, if they didn't pick it up, the second referee would, and then they'd look a bit silly. And so I've been really happy with that. And Sam, you talk about the stats and the different line breaks and things, but one of the incredible stats over the last weekend was the fact that I think 3 or 4 players topped 60 or 70 tackles in a match, which was unheard of. I mean, 40, 45 tackles in a match was stupendous. 60 to 70 tackles is just superhuman.
Yeah, massive.
Absolutely. It's quality.
And did we have any thoughts on the fake crowd noise that was going?
Fake crowd noise.
What was that all about?
Look, it's easy to criticise, and I've seen a lot of criticism of that, but I haven't got a problem with it. I mean, I'm there to watch the football, and the product on the field is what it's all about. It's been fantastic. It'll be nice when the real crowds come back. I'm just wondering whether the real crowds in league are going to be as big as the fake crowds they've got there as cut-out people. But
that fake dog was my personal favourite. That was the highlight of the round for me. Did you see that?
I did not.
Someone paid $22 to put their dog on, get it screen printed and put it as one of the people in the crowd.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was they put up a Facebook post saying my dog was just on national TV, best $22 I ever spent. It's fantastic.
Good. Suggesting it was a pretty poor effort then, Leigh.
Yeah, I think so. No, I actually enjoyed it, to be fair. I just really liked the dog cut out.
Fair enough.
I don't see that very often.
No, can't say I do. And so, Glenn, it made it clear that you enjoyed the round back, but it wasn't the best round for your team. The South Sydney had a loss, I believe.
Yeah, South.
Wayne Bennett's fault, your mum said as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she'd say that too. Look, they were poor, no question about it. They were playing the 2-time premiers at this stage. The last 2 seasons they've won the competition, the Roosters, and South were no match for them. And I don't have great hopes for South. I mean, I've certainly watched South take out wooden spoons and premierships over the years I've been following them, but doesn't change the fact that they're my team and I'll stick with them. But I don't see 2020 as being the year of the rabbit, sadly.
Okay. Yeah, right.
Well, along with the footy, that means Supercoach was back again this weekend.
Which is a sore spot for us, Haz.
Yeah, well, Dad used to get around it, but a bit too lazy nowadays to do the Supercoach. So
he's got too much on. Yeah. Semi-retired, he's quit Supercoach.
But yeah, you did mention, Leigh, wasn't the best weekend for you and Mitch. Your team came crashing back to earth, scoring 1,151 with a loss to Andrews Rockies Rumblers.
I mean, they're a strong side, Andrews Rockies Rumblers. And, they have been tough to beat. I will say, Supercoach, fickle game, I find. Wind back sort of 8 weeks, we were probably the form team in the competition. Yeah. And then you lose form over the break. Simple things, really basic errors that anyone can make, like picking people that aren't playing. Yeah. It's a real common mistake, for seasoned Supercoach players. So, so probably there will be, I think we've got a meeting with the Dragons coach as well. We're probably in the same boat as him as to whether we're staying in contract at this stage after probably quite a poor performance. But hopefully we get one more week, Haz. Yeah.
See if
we've got the full support of the board, so we're looking good.
Yeah, you'll need a few extra cheapies there on your bench for cash cows. But I had a slightly better weekend after a poor...
we weren't going to ask, I'll be honest.
After a poor start to the first couple of rounds where you guys were ahead of me. But I also lost in the We Got the Chocolates League to Simon Malenko, who
too strong, really.
Made a great decision to captain Tommy Turbo, who put on a clinic against the Bulldogs, as he usually does.
Yeah, fair. Our captain was actually not that bad, Skin.
Who was it? I couldn't tell you.
Some bloke I've never seen play before, but he went all right.
Okay. Yeah, Isaiah Yeo. Good choice. Yeah. Lock for Penrith. Played 90 minutes at lock. Pretty big effort for him.
That's right. And it's inside mail. Helps. Yeah. Always in the know.
Yeah, perfect. I think that was my decision to recruit him. I think based on one article that I read, so I'll take that.
Yeah, well, if you could read another couple that tell us who, that would be pretty handy.
Tell us who's injured and not playing, maybe.
That's right. Glenn, we've got one more question for you that I think Mitch was going to bring up.
I was? Yeah, I was, yes. So we've been running a tightest of all time segment for the last couple of weeks, which I'm sure you've heard about. It sort of originated with Sam being very tight with his money, and then it came up that Leigh and I are also probably right alongside him.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if you had any more nominations for us, if you've got any stories throughout the years of anyone who was particularly nervous to part ways with their coin.
It's very well put.
I suppose I shouldn't put it this way, but I'd have a few mates who suggest that I know the value of $1, and maybe that
The old apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
the old gene pool might have sort of fallen that way with the money situation. Certainly didn't with the cricket, but I can't really blame Sam alone because I like to keep my dollars in my pocket too, Leigh.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't seem that way with the amount of surfboards that keep getting shipped to our address.
Unbelievable. A ridiculous amount of surfboards.
Never suggest that 45 surfboards is too many, Sam.
But he does qualify it as their money making things as well, because they're going to go up in value over the years, being collector's items. So
that's fair.
That's what we tell your mother anyway.
Hopefully she's not listening.
I think she might be. Sam, we've still got to see your Highland dance as well. We haven't.
We will get onto that.
We haven't had that showcase yet, but the people want it. They're crying out for it.
I'm sure they want you guys to be involved as well. So.
Oh, we'll be involved, absolutely. It's just that we're probably really naturally gifted dancers, so it won't be a shock.
Naturally gifted Highland dancers.
Probably
don't get me involved in that.
Probably a fait accompli that it will happen because he has been offered a free lesson, Leigh. So
We've got a gift voucher for it. We've got a gift voucher from Christmas from one of the listeners.
About to run out of date, I think. So.
No. We'll get it back in. Don't worry. We'll be fine. Sam, do we have anything more for Señor Haz? The real Haz, you might say, really.
No, I think that's a great debut, a podcast debut for him. So
yeah, straight from radio over to podcast. It's like another code hopper story, really, from radio into podcasting.
Well, happy to do it, and happy to add the dulcet tones and a few different elements to the show, boys. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to had been a part of what you're doing.
We've appreciated your professionalism and your ability to give us a raving review. And we actually do have a couple of other reviews to read out later on, Haz, that have come in. So we've started a lovely trend there, but we appreciate you being here so much, Glenn. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, boys.
Cheers,
appreciate it.
All right, so a bit of a review there from my dad. Good to hear what he thinks about the show and get him involved. Now we have
great. Thanks for bringing him in, Haz. New studio as well.
Yeah,
he's been in the new studio before, even some regulars like Yana.
Yeah,
it's tough work for him. A bit of a squeeze.
That was a real strong talking point. That thanks, boys.
Oh, we can't disagree with that.
Bit of a squeeze in this new studio for him, but
we haven't worked out our best formation yet. I don't think.
Yeah.
It's a bit like FIFA. We're still trying to seeing if we should park the bus like back against the blinds, or if we should come out on the all-out attack towards the camera.
It feels very different, very front and centre for me here. I feel like I'm usually on the side, one of the sides. But
true.
That's a good point, Haz. Do you want me to go over there? We can maybe just have it live, us changing. That'll be good sounds. The mics.
But yeah, going on the review topic, we'd have asked for a few reviews from listeners. We've asked for 5-star ratings first and foremost.
And we got some of them, 5 this week.
We got plenty of those, thankfully. But we got a few reviews. None of them really spraying us, which I was hoping for, which is a weird thing to say. But
no, that's coming, I reckon. There's going to be some entertaining ones. They're coming.
All very positive. I mean, like you said, we've got now on Apple Podcasts alone 54 5-star ratings. And 1 2-star rating.
Don't mention that one, Haz. Don't tell people that.
So I'm not sure who to blame is for that one. I don't know which of the three of us.
I'll tell you exactly who that was. That was Pop. Remember?
Was it?
Do you remember right at the start when Pop had no idea what he was doing, and he just clicked on saying, "I can't understand what you're saying because you talk too fast." And bang, 2 stars.
He gave us a 2-star.
He gave us a 2-star rating.
What a supportive family member.
I was gonna say, like, he left a 2-star rating, whoever it was, and didn't leave a comment or a review at all. Like, surely if you don't like it, you put your 2-star rating and you say why. You say, this is why I don't like it.
Give us some constructive criticism.
But you haven't met Pop, Haz. He makes Mitch look like he's a wordsmith.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyone out there who doesn't like it, don't do that 2-star rating. You can send us a message straight to our website, and we'll be happy to take the
Yeah, we'll vote for you.
But yeah, some of the comments. Nellie May said, hilarious but surprisingly informative. So I'm not too sure why she's surprised. So maybe she...
Probably because she knows me.
Yeah. But it's glad that we're a little bit informative, even though we don't really mean to be.
No, we do sometimes. There's a lot of information coming up here, Haz, about people that are tight. Here it comes.
Taylor said she's not much of a sport fan, but definitely enjoys listening to what's happening in the sport via this podcast over listening to the news. So thanks, Taylor.
Absolutely.
And
'cause that's all fake news anyway.
Yeah, Trump would think so.
Donald Trump's.
Another one, of course.
This is real news.
Yeah. This is where you come for the
We
real
took
stuff.
the wrong coffee.
And this one from Lava Lamp XOXO Blueberry. Of course, we all know who that is.
Yes, that was my first Hotmail email address, I believe, when I was 11 and MSN was still a thing.
So yeah, I'm not sure who did write it. That's their name they've gone with. That's their A-list. But funny bunch of lads having a yarn about sport. What's not to love? So thank you, Lava Lamp XOXO Blueberry.
Great use of the rhetorical question as well. Very good idea for capturing people's attention. So well done.
Like it.
Skinner, little tip for you. When you go to work tomorrow.
Thank you. Yeah, I need all the advice in that area I can get, I suppose, given I say 3 words a week. But that's all right.
Okay, now I'm going to try something here, guys. You know how well I go on the buttons here, so this could be a challenge. But basically, we just spoke to Glenn about sort of the things that became apparent across the weekend of the NRL, a couple of new changes that we had to speak about. One of them was this.
Joy on this Thursday night on Nine's Wide World of Sports. And we're back. It's been 67 days.
Now, Skinner, what struck you as odd in that particular piece of audio?
There's an awful lot of crowd noise for a game that didn't involve a crowd.
Correct. We did speak to Glenn about that. We discussed sort of the crowd noise. He was actually quite a fan of it. From what I recall, Haz, that's right, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't think he really cared about that part of it, to be honest.
No, he didn't seem that keen on it or vice versa. So yeah, there has been plenty of debate about whether, some people would argue like, oh, we love hearing the contact and we love hearing what the ref's saying and blah, 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 and there's no fake 6 again signals, calls and things like that because you can hear everything. Other people are like, nah, it's boring, it's weird, we want the fake noise. I guess from a personal perspective, I think I speak on behalf of all of us, we're quite all right with the fake crowd noise, aren't we? Our issue was that we feel like it was just unrealistic. Really, that was the problem. For anyone that's been to a local game of footy or a game of footy in any capacity, we think that really the only way that fake crowd noise should have gone was in fact actually like this. Get him on side.
He's been doing it all day, sir.
Your eyes painted on.
Forward.
How can they charge $13.90 for this dodgy fish and chips?
Magnificent. The last one particularly relevant, obviously. So yeah, that was sort of what we were thinking, wasn't it, guys?
Yeah, correct.
To be honest, you probably don't hear a whole lot of that sort of comment on the TV, but definitely when you're in the crowd.
Just admit that out somehow.
But when you go to a game live, there's so many comments like that, and it's annoying for me. But it just everyone just gets into it so much.
I've got one guy that I'm going to get on the podcast that you will love. When footy, actually, Q Cup's been cancelled the whole year, hasn't it?
I'd say so, yeah.
Yeah, right. Because there's this guy that goes and watches every Wynnum game that I MC. And he honestly just abuses the referee the entire time. One guy, and he's like well known for just being like Wynnum's pest, for just like spraying touch judges, spraying referees. He's elite. I'm going to try and capture some audio next time, Haz, and make sure that I can show it to you.
Even worse when people do it at home and yelling at the TV, those sort of things.
Yeah.
Like, man, the referee can't hear you from home, let alone if you're in the crowd.
Yeah, guilty. And we're going to have to do an AFL one.
Yeah,
So
that's what I was going to say. I like sitting in an AFL game and hearing the whole crowd yell, ball!
Yeah, we'll take you to an AFL game, Haz. You would love it. You'll find yourself yelling ball, not even knowing what it means.
Yeah.
Well, another thing I found interesting about that fake crowd noise, I assumed it was like strictly a thing for the TV, but apparently they're actually playing it at the stadiums. Did anyone know that?
I didn't know that.
I did not know that.
Yeah, well, they are. A mate of mine was walking past Suncorp Stadium the night of the Broncos.
Yeah, Broncos Power on Thursday.
Yeah, heard like the crowd going
Actually,
up.
I've read that. I've read that exact same thing.
Yeah, what's the theory? I can't understand what the theory would be there. Maybe just to get
help the players.
Yeah,
Does it
pump
get
the
the
players
players
up,
amped
yeah.
up or something. But then I read something today, like another comment on social media that said that when the Raiders scored, on the weekend. Like, it was a Melbourne home game. Raiders scored, and the crowd cheered for them.
Yeah, that was weird. They need to bring in some crowd noise to our Shield games. There's only like 50 people that go, so we need a bit of ambience as players. We hit a boundary. We need a bit louder clapping.
Well, should we record one, Haz?
Yeah, definitely.
We'll do one for next week. All right, perfect. Now, guys, there's no secret that something has been dominating the headlines over the last couple of weeks is the impending TOTE 11 selections, the tightest of all time that stands for. It was really hatched, if you're a new listener, it was basically hatched from the fact that we've mercilessly teased Haz, actually not really us, it was Luke Feldman at the start that teased Haz about the fact that he used to sort of steal soap from hotel rooms and was reasonably fiscally responsible was the initial phrase that he used. He then sort of built some momentum when Christian Welch came on and said that he had a friend that rivaled Haz, that actually had returned his coat hanger. Had returned his coat, left the tag on it, and returned the coat the following week to make sure that he got his money back. He was just sort of hiring it for the event. So that built some momentum, and we wanted to hear from you guys and engage you as much as possible to sort of say, who are the tightest people that you've seen? And I guess some of the tightest actions that you've seen. And we've had some cracking nominations, Haz.
We have, a few nominations, recordings sent to our website, which is great. We love hearing from people directly there, and I think also on Instagram message.
We have, that's right. Now let me play this
more, but these are the ones we're going to.
Yeah. We've had a few. We obviously don't have time for all of them. I've tried to pick out the best ones. So I've got 2 voicemail ones and 1 Instagram message. So I do appreciate, obviously, all of you that send them in. If we ever have a tough week, then we'll go back to the files and we'll grab those ones. For this week, these were the 3 that got selected. The first one is from Jake.
Grease themed dress up at work, and I've walked in with the standard black jeans, white shirt, and a black denim jacket. And anyway, later in the day, this lady comes in and offers me a T-Birds jacket that she's got from a costume shop and asks me if I want to wear it. So I'm like, yeah, why not? Put it on so I can look the part, looking a bit better. Anyway, later in the day, I'm sitting there just slaving away on the computer as you do. And I receive an email asking for $15 for the jacket hire. Now, not once did she mention earlier in the day that I needed to pay any money to hire this jacket, but still,
it's a classic.
She's asking me to pay money for the jacket. So, yeah.
So she's got it and realised she's got no use for it, but wants to recoup her money some way.
That's correct. That's exactly
the lucrative business she's running.
Hope she made a profit. Yeah,
she's obviously just been offered this like a deal that she could not refuse. Like, 6 jackets, of course, I'll definitely need them, and then had to hire them out to poor unsuspecting victims. Fantastic.
That's cool.
The next one's from Matty, guys.
Matty Campbell here. I just wanted to get in my submission for the tightest of all time. First 11. My nomination goes to Johnny Dore. This Tully Tiger, he's tighter than the top of an Alchemy Cordial bottle when you try and open it with wet hands.
Brilliant.
His tight ways started back in university, although I'm sure they have much deeper roots. This was where I first encountered them. Johnny used to live close enough to a local watering hole on Kelvin Grove Road. And he quite quickly figured out that if you walked home from university during lunchtime, you could check in and get a few credits on their loyalty app to put towards buying a few rounds on the weekend. It would have been good if he actually spent those credits on us. However, Johnny used to always just buy his own drinks and drop a smoke bomb when it turned out to be his round. So hope he's a shoe-in for maybe number 7. Can't really bowl. Can't really buy a beer either. But yeah, leave it up to you, fellas. All right, take it easy. Bye.
Perfect. Great nomination.
Great nomination. I actually know Johnny. I know Johnny. I played a couple of university games with him, and yes, can confirm. I mean, Rich coming from me, I've been nominated twice already. Somehow, considering how generous I am. But
okay.
but yes, Johnny definitely battling as well. The written one came from Luke. I've been keeping an eye on your tightest of all time for We Got the Chocolates. I have a story for you. My dad is a bricklayer, and at the start of the coronavirus, when you couldn't get toilet paper, he would take the toilet rolls from the worksite Portaloo after finishing the job. Now you can get toilet paper at the shops again, but he still brings rolls of toilet paper home from work all the time.
That's brilliant.
Oh, that is fantastic.
That's how it starts. That's how it starts.
Is that from experience?
All it takes is a global pandemic, and or next time you know it, you're
It's
a
just a
tight
habit.
ass.
It's just a habit. It's exactly what happened to Haz. It was like the turn of the millennium when he thought that it was Y2K, and he just started taking shampoo and conditioner out of hotels, and then bang, he did it for the next 8 years. Thank you very much to all of those people that have been sending in tote nominations, and we look forward to receiving more. There's still another couple of weeks of that competition to run, and obviously we want to make the job as tough as possible for selectors, which will be people like Luke Feldman. Someone else, we'll find someone else most certainly. There'll be a couple of great selectors that we will have on board for you there. Now, the one other piece of news, guys, you remember, I mean, it seems a lifetime ago because the We Got the Chocolates sort of juggernaut has just gained so much momentum since, but there was a guy that you remember, I think his name was it started with J, it might have been John Baisley, James, I think it might have been, James. James Baisley, over the weekend, well, was it over the weekend? It was late last week. He's pulled off basically what can only be described as one of the greatest proposal stories of all time. Probably the right time to mention. She said yes. So James is most certainly engaged to be married early next year, which is a fantastic result. And the even better news for those that follow us on our social media platforms, which are Facebook, Twitter, even TikTok actually, but Instagram as well. YouTube too. Yeah, that's right. They would have seen that I would say probably first photo that got taken. Now, it's difficult to find proof of that. I get that. But first photo was in a We Got the Chocolates hat and beanie, from all reports.
Yeah, no other way to do it, is there?
No, well, it's certainly what I plan on doing. And Haz you as well, obviously. Get Emily in a beanie.
Yeah, well, when you see the beanie and hat come in the mail at my house, then you'll know what's about to happen. So
I love that you're waiting until you get engaged to actually buy.
Emily's bought one. Just got to wait it up for you.
That's right. Fantastic. Frick.
Leighthal goes another week without a best.
I was going to say, well.
Of course, people watch us because of how informative we are on this podcast.
We just heard that, didn't we?
So, into a bit of sporting news to round us off this week. And, a lot of people talk about who the GOAT sports person is, who's the greatest of all time. We've heard a bit of Federer, Jordan, Woods in there. But a sport that is commonly overlooked contains a couple of guys that really rival them. The past 2 decades of badminton competition have effectively been owned by Malaysia's Lee Chong-wei and China's Lin Dan. Now, I might have said that wrong.
I think that's pretty spot on for mine.
But, of course, I know what I'm talking about here. The pair have met 40 times, 22 times in finals matches, and they have 135 titles between them, which is a fair few badminton titles. Lin, known for his tactical awareness and adjusting to his opponent's style of play, has reached 105 finals, winning 66 titles in his career thus far. Leigh is known for his impressive speed and counter-attacking ability. He was actually the number 1 seed.
We're still talking about...
not you.
No, right. It's an easy mistake to make.
Leigh was the number 1 seed in badminton for 349 weeks, including a 199-week streak from August 21, 2008 to June 14, 2012.
Holy Moses.
Yeah, far out.
That's a lot of weeks world number 1. I'm not sure if Roger Federer he might go close, maybe, but...
Yeah, we'll have to check that.
But,
we've actually got something in the pipeline coming up that will fit very well in, Haz. I say in the pipeline because I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but I do have a plan that I'm envisaging that I think will work very well with that particular start that you've just brought up. So.
Perfect. And that Lee Dan reached 106 finals, walking away with 69 titles. Unfortunately, the rivalry is now over, though, as Leigh has had to stop playing due to nose cancer and is now retired from the sport. But serious career for those two badminton players, and sport you probably don't hear about too much, especially in Australia. Maybe in Asia, they're big names.
What? Yeah. When you say nose cancer, do you mean like skin cancer on the nose? Or you're not sure?
I'm not sure, but it doesn't have to be.
Badminton an indoor sport?
Definitely doesn't have to be that. It could be from smoking or something, I'm sure.
Sticking ciggy butt brains straight up your nose, straight up nostrils.
But yeah, I'm a big fan of badminton. Played a bit at school. I don't know if you guys played much, but it's fun. It's plenty fun, badminton.
Great sport,
I've
actually.
only had a couple of cracks at it, but yeah, it's good fun.
Yeah, you'd be poor if it's anything to judge your tennis.
Yeah, correct.
Moses, you'd be ordinary.
Especially when you have to underarm it over the net, don't you?
Yeah, that's right.
You
Your
start
underarms, you'd never even get one in play.
false,
You would get beaten 11-0 every set. I was actually looking for our badminton sound effect, guys, but we don't have one.
Oh, that's a shame.
Real
Well, we've got another sport coming up. Maybe you do. Maybe you got some time to look for the soccer sound effect if you've got it. But as a former,
I think it's this one. Yep.
former professional soccer player in the German Bundesliga. Actually, I think the Bundesliga has just come up, started again. One of the other sports that started around the world.
It's the Bundesliga and the NRL, like the only two sports being played.
But yeah, this guy, Heinrich Kumber, has appeared in public very recently, alive and well, after being pronounced dead in a car accident 4 years ago. So he was a professional soccer player and, thought to be have passed away. But yeah, it's a weird story where, I read an article about it and not really all the details make too much sense, but the car crash that he supposedly passed away in happened one night in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where his companions had left him but still had his phone and wallet in their car. So they crashed their car, and it was thought that he must have been still in it when his documents and stuff were in the car. His wife even claimed a multi-million-dollar life insurance policy soon after the event.
It paid out?
Yeah.
Hell.
Yeah, but she is in trouble now for fraud.
Surely that's frowned upon.
Yeah, but 4 years later, he's turned up back in Western Germany working as a chemical technician. So I don't know.
Classic job.
I don't know how he's gotten away with that or how it's all worked out. But
Heinrich Kumber and his brother Q. Skinner. What in the world is up? Okay. Well, on that note, guys, I'm having some real issues with trying to play this outro song, so we'll just buffer for a little bit here. It was called Honey Dixit. I got it. And there's the song, guys, so that can mean only one thing, and that is time to wrap up and discuss this week's Best on Ground. I guess I'm discussing it because you do that very keen to. Okay, well, let me get on the front foot. Leighthal.
Your arguments because you've just had a shocker.
We know that he's due. He is due. Sometimes, you can't keep a good player down for that long, Skinnell.
Yeah,
that's the issue.
Yeah. There's no evidence of you being a good player yet.
I thought I was clinical for at least 50 minutes.
I think we're all quite solid this episode. Maybe a few mistakes here and there from Leigh on the buttons, but we were quite solid. I was actually thinking I might go against what Mitch is saying and vote Leigh, just because he has put together the table for us here and a few chairs, set up the new room. So
the new studio.
So the new studio is a good addition, and you've done a good job there.
Could I
Leigh.
interest you in voting for Glenn Haz?
Oh, no.
How crisp was his voice? Such good story.
You can't be serious.
I think he was a little bit far away from the microphone. We had to turn up his sound a little bit, so it might be hard with the editing. And we can't give him the Best on Ground in his first appearance because we want to give him something to aspire to. We want him to have that motivation.
He's not a proper guest, so we don't feel bad about it because he's not like a famous guest.
And he's had that motivation to give us more and want to come back with more stories because I'm sure he's got plenty locked away.
So it's Leighthal claiming it.
I'm happy to give you a sympathy, but
sympathy. Skinner, look at this table.
Unless you two guys both vote for me together.
That's fantastic. Oh, once you've dangled that carrot in front of me, no one's taken any votes off of me, particularly not my own vote. I mean, this is proper cedar oak. This table, built it from my bare hands.
You did not. You bought it at IKEA and struggled to put it together for 2 hours.
Skinner, does it look like IKEA?
Please stop.
Okay. Now, speaking of stop, the music's just gone, which is a real shame because that was building some nice vibe for us. Yeah. But that will mean we just have to wrap up really quickly. So, I mean, we've told you a lot of the information already. We want people to definitely get in touch with us, but specifically give us some more reviews to read out. Spray us, 5-star rating, thank you, on Apple Podcasts, and then give us a review that we can read to entertain the masses. That's obviously what we do. But if you can help us, that's always appreciated, most certainly. The other thing is, Skinner, the website that you've created, that basically leads people to wherever they may need to go in terms of getting in contact with us on social media, correct?
Yeah, correct. So you can jump on there and find links to Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, etc. You can send us an email from the website. So yeah, anything that you want to get in touch with us and tell us about, we're more than happy to hear. Take on any sort of feedback or any ideas for segments, stories, etc. Skin stats, inspiration, if you don't mind. All the above.
Anyone that needs to go on the social sim bin, remember that that's still going. We've been on the lookout there. I chucked a few people in, and then I realised that they were bots, so they managed to work their way out, which was a shame. So any help there is appreciated as well. Do definitely get in touch with us, guys. We absolutely love hearing from you. We love talking about you on this particular podcast, and we'll most certainly be back next week with a interview, and a very exciting interview. I believe it is an ex-AFL player by the name of Tim Notting.
Yeah, well, you've given that away early, but sure.
Well, isn't that fine? Don't we want people to come and listen next week again?
Oh, yeah.
You just want them to stop now.
Come back
thanks
next
for
week.
listening to episode 45, guys, and good luck in the future, because you're never listening again, because Skinner won't tell you anything. All right, we good?
We're good.
Outstanding, guys. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Do I still keep the best on ground?
Oh, no.